Making product decisions without data is like trying to walk through fog without a compass or a GPS. It's just plain difficult. I started doing product management nearly a decade ago, and it happened in my time where I was in management consulting. In management consulting, everything is about numbers. You cannot have a slide if there's not a number to it. That's how strict it is. Just so you get an idea, one time for a client, I was standing in a store counting how many people were coming in, then counting how many people were going into a counter, counting how many people were attended, how many people were greeted. That's how being data-driven works. We didn't have any numbers. We didn't have like a footfall counting system. So we built a funnel based on observing people and taking notes. Sounds sad, huh? And it is. But it is better than having no number at all. It gives you a picture of what's going on. In one company, all the developers were frustrated because they were working on one thing, they're on another. Leadership didn't trust the engineering team. They didn't trust product management either. And when I came in, the retros were a big disaster. Like, one thing that the developers were complaining about was that they have no clue of the impact of their work, but they didn't know how they were contributing to the company. And they were just hearing people complain, and they didn't know which direction to go. And the way that product was being done was more project management style. And so when I arrived, I started making an effort in turning everything into numbers. Any feature we would be working on, I would say we started from this amount of data, then we reduced this by whatever percentage. We had this amount of issues, now we have this amount of issues, or we have no issues now. Improve this by whatever percent, things like that. And even though it might sound like there's no value in that, teams started being so motivated. Like, they would be like, yeah, and I would start like, oh, let's clap, you know? The engineers were clapping along with me, maybe out of pity, but they were doing it, and it was motivating. Perhaps you've had a performance review and your lead has told you, hey, you need to be more data-driven. Or maybe you've heard from your engineering team, like, hey, we need to see more results. We want to know what we're doing. I'm not saying this is the reality, but it is possible that people see your work as a little bit fluff. You're talking about things, you're mentioning features, but you have no supporting documentation, or you have no supporting evidence of why that should be done. Being data-driven has not only helped me being better in my work with engineers, it has also helped me communicate better with stakeholders and turn down proposals from stakeholders. I normally ask stakeholders to provide numbers whenever they have an issue, like, how often is this repeated? How many times does this happen? And they all say, we don't have the numbers. So at the beginning, I do a little bit of the effort and I help them measure, or I teach them how to measure. Great product managers create compelling user journeys. While intuition is valuable, backing your decisions with data transforms your strategy from a mere opinion to actionable insights. How do you start being data-driven? Today I'll show you how to make a critical shift without drowning in Googling or researching by yourself. Okay, so let's start. You can never know where you're going if you don't know where you're starting from. So first step is audit your current state. That means conduct a thorough review on your documents, your presentations, your communications. What percentage of that contains actual numbers? And be sincere with yourself here. How often does your data analyst, or how often do you share insights with the team? Numbers. This will create a baseline on where it is that you're starting from. Second, master your tracking infrastructure. Debug a session, use a clickstream, use Mixpanel, whatever it is that you can use to understand what happens in a session. Check what are the metrics, what are the events that are being triggered. Why? Because those events then make for the metrics. Define metrics, measure impact, define KPIs. No one in data told me what you're measuring. Own up to it. Come on, you can still change. You have the potential to make a change. You have the potential to do things differently. Change your switch. Think, what is it that I can do? And understanding what options you have for tracking is essential. It will make a huge difference. Go into the debugger and check when the user is scrolling down, I'm measuring that scroll down. When a user is clicking a button, I'm defining the click of the button. I'm also using a label. Sometimes you're going to be working on some things that are so narrow that it's going to be very difficult to have an impact on the final metric. However, there are smaller signals that can help you identify whether you're making a change or not. When you have a website, when you have an app, you're tracking so much that you can find those relationships. Third, Decode your company's data language. Every single company has their own data dialect. What conversion rate means for one company might not necessarily mean the same thing as another company. And you're like, what? Conversion rate is the same thing for every single business. In theory, yes, but some companies have sub-conversion rates. Other companies consider a conversion as a lead. Other companies consider a conversion as having a call with a client. You locate your company's glossary. You need to understand what things mean. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're in a meeting, people are having a discussion about how to improve a specific KPI and you don't know what that is, because you're gonna start making the wrong suggestions. I remember once, I had just started in a company and it was a big meeting with product managers. One of the founders was there and there was another person there who had also just started. I don't know how long before me, I think a couple of months before me, and it was my second week. This product manager asked, what is the meaning of this KPI? And all the other product managers were just acting like they were not invested enough to listen to the question, or like they were just not replying. And I said, the meaning of this KPI is this, it includes this and this, and the value that it has normally is a range between this and this. All the PMs were like, how did she know that? In that moment, I just said, I'll share with you the glossary that I found. I was going through dashboards and asking people, what is this? What is the meaning of this? What is that? Like a little kid, you know? Some occasions, data analysts will tell me, well, I also don't know. I'm like, okay, who can help me find that out? Because it is very difficult for me to make an assumption, to make a decision if I don't understand what something is measuring. Understanding the meaning behind events, metrics, KPIs makes a huge difference. Fourth, map your analytics ecosystem. What are the tools? It is super easy to take the back seat and say, hey, I'm a product manager, no one has given me any tool, so I don't need to know about it. Come on, get up your seat and start putting in the work. Ask people, what tools do we have for this? What tools do we have for that? Go to marketing. Hey, what do you use for measuring? Go to data analytics. What can we use for this? Go to your engineering team. What do we have for network issues? What do we have for error handling? Make a list of those tools. Each tool offers unique insights into product performance, also in user behavior. Fifth, develop data fluency. Regularly engage with these tools and familiarize yourself with how do they work, what do they measure, especially the ones that apply to your product area. Ideally, you won't only focus on those, you will have an idea on everything. I don't wait for someone to tell me, oh, we need to make this work. I normally know that something is not working and that we should do something about it. I don't like to be told, because for me, being told means I didn't pay attention to it myself. I go to the dashboards, but I don't just skim the dashboards. I try to really understand what they are measuring. I had situations where I've woken up, go into my computer and see a heated discussion where everyone's like, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then I check and it's something that is not even my responsibility, and somehow it became my problem. And the worst part is that I engaged earlier so that problem wouldn't happen. I helped team taking care of that so that wouldn't happen. And still, it happened. But that is, I don't know, that kind of makes the stories interesting, I guess. 6. Create your first data story. Go through a simple user journey. I'm not talking to you about doing the whole thing where you try to understand every single thing that the user is doing. If you can, just choose something simple. What happens after a session start to a user adding a product to the basket, or from adding a product to the basket to checkout. If you're in a SaaS, from the moment a user signs up to the moment they start the onboarding. Check journeys that are simple for you to understand. Determine what is the starting point, the entry point. Then track the progression, key steps, the events that are triggered, and finally decide what is the success or the drop-off. What happens in whatever stage I've decided as the final stage. Remember, when in doubt, ask your data analyst for insights rather than guessing. 7th, validate past hypotheses. This is where the real learning happens. You can go to stuff you did in the past. First, write down, what did I hope to get out of this feature? You go and check and see whether that happened or not. And you make yourself a note. It didn't happen. It happened. You make a list with the different things. It will help you calibrate how good your intuition is. This will be a reality check. 8th, from now on, formulate testable hypotheses. Rather than talking about, oh, I want to work on this feature, I want to do this feature, think, I want to fix this user problem, which is represented by this number. I want to improve conversion rate by 5%. I want to increase daily active users by whatever percent. Hopefully, it is achievable. But even in the theory of OKRs, your objective is 70% achieved, then it's a success. Objectives serve us to try to become better at something, to try to improve something. When you don't work towards an objective, you're not making a realistic effort to try to improve something. Same as with writing outcomes, you can start communicating with more numbers, communicating with yourself, communicating with your team. It requires additional work. It requires you to take time from something else to do this, but it will shift your mindset. You will let data be the deciding factor in the features that you build. Throughout my years in product management, I've learned that being data-driven isn't about complex algorithms or advanced statistics, although my data science background says something completely different. It's about asking questions. It's even better if it's about the right questions. It's also about having the discipline to let evidence drive decisions. The most successful product managers blend creativity and analysis. It's not one or the other. Start small, stay curious, and you'll see how you're increasingly making an impact. Which of these steps do you find most challenging in your journey to becoming data-driven? If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up, and if you want to watch more content like this, subscribe. Thanks a lot and have a nice day.